The Renew podcast features inspiring conversations between host Lauren Martin and influential women shaping the real estate industry. Renew is a rent-free initiative to unite and cheer on women professionals from every corner of the real estate world, coast to coast.
That kind of leads into the next segment and something I've talked to you guys about a lot, which is just the power of positivity and positive thinking. I set a goal for myself this year that, I'm not really one for like New Year's resolutions or anything because they go by the wayside in like a month. But I said this year I'm going to try to just be more positive outwardly towards others. Like if I see somebody's outfit and I love it, tell them. If there was really good service at a restaurant, tipping is nice, but tell them. If you encounter somebody that looks like they're having a rough day, be empathetic. And it's only 2 months in and I don't do it for myself. I do it because I want to put positivity back into the world, but it is a good feeling. So I would love to talk to you guys a little bit about what does just positivity and positive thinking mean to you guys?
I'll start. This is really important for me, and this is something I learned. This has been several years ago, or very early 20s. I was working with a woman who she just brought joy to everybody, and everybody tended to migrate towards her, and she had great ability for mentorship. And she had taken a course on Zig Ziglar. So I'm looking it up. What does this mean? He's a motivational speaker. And just to give you a couple quotes, if you can dream it, then you can achieve it. And then he's got another quote. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Anyway, started looking into that and other mentors and realized how important it was to be uplifting. To yourself and to others. So to me, it's just an outlook on life. I think I've read this. People with a positive outlook tend to cope better with stress and experience overall satisfaction. Saying goes, not what happens to you, but it's how you react to it that matters. It's also linked to key emotional intelligence, which is an essential quality in leaders. I can tell you Katy in particular, I've actually told Katy this, you have high emotional intelligence. I think that is amazing. You have the ability of understanding and managing yours and other emotions. And so positive thinking is the key to emotional intelligence is what I'm saying. And I think it's really important to be those things: empathetic, self-awareness, motivation, but to yourself and to others. So clearly it means a lot to me.
How about for you, Katy?
Yeah, so I was thinking a lot about this, like coming into the podcast, because Marsha has said before that she likes me because I'm a positive thinker and we work well together because I do focus on positive thinking. And I never really thought of it that way. For so long, I was like the queen of the worst case scenario, like something would happen and I would freak out and worry like, oh my gosh, the world is going to end. And a few years ago, started thinking a little bit differently about, well, what really is like the worst thing that could happen, like realistically. Like if I bring this idea to my boss and say, I really think we should do this, they're not going to fire me. Marsha's not going to be like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Get out of here. She's just going to say, no, try again. And so really taking on that mindset of the worst thing you're going to hear is no. It has been really empowering for me and just kind of diving in and trying. When I ran for the RISO board, I was like, well, the worst thing that's going to happen is I'm not going to get elected. It's not like I'm never going to be able to go to RISO again and I'm not going to be able to try again. And then I got elected and it was great. But I think that I would have been okay even if I hadn't won, because I thought through like the worst thing I'm going to hear is no. And then I just try again in a couple of years. Like it's not that serious. It's something I want to do and it's a goal I've set for myself and I will keep pushing forward until I achieve that goal. One thing that I think really helps me is Marsha was talking about thought thinkers or positive thinkers and thought leaders, what I was trying to say. And one thing that's always resonated with me is David Foster Wallace did a graduation speech called This Is Water, like years and years ago. And sometimes when I'm having a really tough time, I listen to it because it's about changing your thinking. Like we're in this world where, we feel like we're the center of the universe, but we're not. Like I'm in line, and he gives an analogy of I'm in line at the grocery store and I'm annoyed and it's taking a long time and there's screaming kids around me and all of these things are happening and me, this is making my day terrible. But then if you take a opposing mindset of, well, I'm not the center of this universe in this grocery store. Like, this woman with this screaming kid could be getting food for her husband who's like in the hospital dying. Like, there's all these things, like people rushing in traffic could be like have a real emergency, and kind of giving that empathy and kind of giving people the benefit of the doubt is really helpful. And so the whole idea of just, I can kind of persist in this like negative mindset because things aren't going my way, or I can think about this in a larger way. Like, I didn't get this promotion I wanted, or I didn't get this like role I wanted. Well, someone else did, and that could be really big for them, and I'm really happy for them. And seeing like other people succeed doesn't take away from my own success. And I think that that's a really good place to operate. And so I try and bring that same energy to my team. Like, I do one-on-ones every month with my team. They were yesterday. I do them first Wednesday of every month. The whole day I'm just doing one-on-ones for 45 minutes to an hour. And I start everyone with just, how are you? Like, how are things going? And kind of letting the conversation lead from there and helping them find solutions and finding ways that I can be helpful and I can empower them so that things are a little bit easier for them. Like, taking the focus off of me and what I need from them, and instead what they need from me. And I think that that's a really powerful way to manage and to think about really anything. And I'm grateful that Marsha helped me realize, like, that's positive thinking. That's not just like how I do things. It is like a positive mindset. And so it was like a nice realization to have. And I find that it works really well for me.
You know, when I met you, Katy, I told you that's one of the things that really drew me to you. And we had conversations, and you talked, Katy, she's not telling you this, but she's done some mentorship and other things. And I really respected that, and really was a trigger for me. And I just saw how she evaluated in our conversations, asked her some open-ended questions about, specifically how she dealt with certain things. And I knew that was the culture I wanted, but also knew that was a person I knew that would be able to get things done and motivate her team.
So, Marsha, you brought up something that is really interesting too, and Katy, you alluded to it, but just on emotional intelligence and empathy. When I think there's like this misconception of positivity, right? When people say the word positivity, normally they think of like bright yellow sunshines and like pink and just like, yay! But positivity is much deeper than that. It's a empathetic, just a brighter outlook, right? And one thing you said, Katy, about like asking my team, how are they? Something I was talking to my best friend about. You ask somebody, how are you? And what is normally their response?
Fine.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm good. But when is the last time somebody asks you, no, but really, how are you? Right? And it seems like that's what you do in your one-on-ones. Is positivity is also supporting people's lack of positivity. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be super happy. It's just a positive influence on somebody. So is that kind of what you guys view it as too?
Yes.
Katy's got a story. I can let you tell it, Katy, but we often evaluate people in our company, and one of the things I think we do well as far as trying to incorporate positive thinking into it is not just labeling people and looking at them, the position they're in, but trying to figure out what their talents, what's their interests. Because sometimes they may do fine at the job they're in, but they have this other interest or talent, and you can marry them to another position and they just blossom. And you're like, wow, and they can take it to another level that maybe you didn't realize. Well, you didn't realize they had, they didn't realize they had the ability to do, but can grow that position and help you grow your team. And we've done that with Katy's team. I'll let you go, Katy. I feel like I'm stepping on your toes, but why don't you talk about, I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, so when I first came to FMLS, I wasn't sure like what I wanted the product team to look like. I wanted, this was my first opportunity to really like build a team from the ground up in a way that I envisioned and that I think would be most effective. And while I was working on getting it there with the people that I currently had, I did see this gap, and I had someone from another department that I would often rely on to help out with testing or anytime I wanted feedback on the agent experience, because they were a trainer at the time. And I often would find like in conversations that they were wanting to do more, like, oh, if you ever need anything else, or if you ever need help with this. And I was seeing like this person, I would just ask them on the side, like, hey, can you like test this thing? And then we'll hop on a call with the vendor and we'll go over what we find. And they were going above and beyond, and they weren't even on my team. And I saw a lot of value there. And so I mentioned it to Marsha as an aside. I was like, listen, like if there's ever an opportunity for me to expand my team, like I would love to find a way to bring this person over, because I do think that they have some talents that I really need. They have a perspective that I really need. And I think they would contribute a lot, but I was new. I like didn't want to step on toes. I hadn't even talked to this person, but I was like, I would love, to think about this. And so Marsha and I had several conversations. We had conversations with the training manager. And then when we finally brought this person into the fold, they were very excited. And now they and I are like attached at the hip. Like I work with him every day. He is my project coordinator, and I honestly don't know what I would do without him. And he is someone where I did start those one-on-ones, and I would say like, how are you? And he would say, I'm fine. And I'd be like, okay, well, how are things going with this? What do you feel about this? And because when I ask, how are you? I don't just mean about work. So sometimes I'll be like, well, how are other things going? Like, how are you feeling overall? Like, are you feeling overwhelmed? And now when I come into a call with them and I ask, how are you? I know that he's being honest with me. He's telling me exactly how he is. And we end up having really good conversations, and we work so well together. And I'm glad I kind of took that risk and went to Marsha and was like, hey, I know this person is a really great trainer. They are, and he still is. But I was like, I really think there's something here, and I don't want him to just be thought of as a trainer forever. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think it's worked out really well. And I think everyone's really happy with that. And so I've tried my best to recognize value, not only within my own department, but outside of it and those that I partner with. And if I feel like there's a space that I could bring them to where they could be successful and love their jobs, not to say that he didn't love his job, but I think that he is feeling like fulfilled for the first time in a while, because you do the same job for a really long time and it doesn't change. I think that's hard. Yeah. And now he has a job where every day is different. It's not just get up, train a class, talk to members, go to bed. Now it's, hey, we got to figure out what we're doing about Matrix 12. Can you try and coordinate these people's schedules and then make a task list so we can get this going? And he kills it every single time. Like I'm really happy that I took that chance, and I kind of built a reputation as the poacher at FMLS because I kind of stole him, and that's fine. So sometimes when people do really well, and now I say like, oh, so-and-so's really good, their manager will sometimes be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, no, they're not coming to your team.
Hey, simmer down a little.
I think that's a good reputation to have, though, that I like to poach good talent for my team. And I think that's why my team is really what they are.
Strong team, very strong team.
Well, and I think too, it speaks, Katy, to you recognizing talent outside of what their role was, but also Marsha, it speaks to you for trusting Katy, right? Like she was new, and you could have been like, no, like that's somebody else's teammate. You can't take them, but you trusted her, and I think that speaks volumes.
Katy mentioned it to me, and I reached out to that person's manager and that person individually and started asking them, what do you want to do? But I think it was Katy being empathetic enough to listen and understand, and she started hearing from this person, hey, I want to do these other things, got brought to my attention. We asked some open-ended questions and said, hey, let's make it, we didn't have a position. Let's make a position. Let's make an opportunity. And this person has, like I said, she's watered the garden. He's blossomed, and he absolutely loves, he'll do anything. He's just so amazing. And really happy about that because, again, Katy's happy. He's happy. And guess what? They make our members happy.
Yeah.
We're going to go the extra mile. They enjoy what they're doing. And I think that's really important to think about in the whole, workplace culture and bringing, the positivity in. It's more than just, like you said, sunshine and rainbows and I smile. It's about doing the right thing. And like I said, being able to, cup half full, not half empty.
Yeah, it's about caring, right? And I think, Katy, you said this too with the speech that you were talking about, but you never know what somebody's going through. And work is a job at the end of the day. Like we come here, we love it. It is family, but we have lives and family outside of that. And to say this isn't Severance, like I don't know if you guys watch that show, but our lives bleed into one another. And it does, if you're having a bad day at home, it's hard to not have a bad day at work too. And it's important to just be empathetic and recognize those things for sure.
Absolutely.
So, moving on, we have one more section before we close this out. And this is something really exciting because it is Women's History Month. And I'm a big proponent of looking back so that we can look forward even brighter. So, my first question for you guys on Women's History Month is what is, or I should say, who, I'm very tongue tied today, who is a historical woman that has inspired you? And Marsha, we'll start with you.
I think for me growing up, a lot of the women were people I read about in books. And I think the one that I know I remember reading about, I think commonly, at least in my age range, Eleanor Roosevelt, Marie Curie, Florence Nightingale, but Eleanor Roosevelt because she was a first lady. But what I admire about her, you have to think about this is back in the and she wasn't a conformist. She sought to make a difference, but based on her merits. She wasn't going to dress or look the part. At that time, society dictated a woman act and do a certain way. And in the White House, can you imagine? And she championed human rights. And she made sure her husband, Franklin FDR, went through on some of the things he said. Like she was really behind the New Deal. And it was like, the woman behind the man. Well, that was her. So I think that's the one that sticks out in my head as far as a historical person. I do have another person, but I'll talk about that later. I'll give you a chance to talk.
Yeah, so mine is, once again, I'm going non-traditional because I was thinking about women who have been figureheads in my lifetime that have made an impact on me. And mine isn't a world leader, but for me, it's Carrie Fisher. I grew up loving Princess Leia and seeing this woman keep up with the boys and become a general, and I thought that was so cool. I was a Star Wars kid, surprise, surprise. And then as I got older and I continued to just love everything Carrie did, her willingness to be open and speak to her own mental health struggles, I think was really important. Especially for women, because it wasn't that long ago that anxiety and depression was just diagnosed as hysteria. And so for this person to take her struggles and to take her own, traumas and addictions and speak to them and be open and honest and be yes, this is what happened to me. My life hasn't been great. And I understand I come from this place of privilege, but I have these issues and I'm working through them, and being open about it and finding humor in it and making it feel it was okay to talk about these things was so radical to me. Growing up when you didn't when I was a teenager, anxiety and depression weren't that talked about. And now I see the women that I mentor, they're very open and honest, and they have full understanding of their own struggles. And I think sometimes man, I wish when I was 16 I understood what anxiety was, because so much of my life would have been easier growing up if I understood that. And so Carrie being able to speak to that really has influenced me, and being willing to be open and honest about the things that scare you or the things that might not look that pretty is powerful to me. And so I try and do the same thing, and I try and be open and honest. And when someone is struggling, telling them it's not just you, I have these issues too. And, I go to therapy and I do this and I do that. And I don't hide behind, my mental health. I own it and I move through it. And there have been times where Marsha's been hey, can I call you after work? I'm no, sorry, I got to go to therapy. It's my therapy night. And I'm just really open about it. And I think that that's helpful because it shows that it's okay that I don't have it all together. And it's okay that I'm getting help and working through it. That's the important thing. And I really feel Carrie helped empower that in me when I was at an age where I kind of just tried to ignore it at first. And so I know she didn't get voting rights, and she didn't, do all these important things, but to me it was really important. It was really impactful. And so that's someone I try and emulate in my life.
I think that's the beauty of Women's History Month, right? There's so many women who have done so many important things. Eleanor Roosevelt changed the way that women live our day-to-day lives. But to your point, Carrie Fisher, and talking about mental health, I can't tell you how many times growing up, I had teachers where I was feeling very anxious, and they're oh, you're just being a girl.
Right.
What? Or is it your time of the month? Has anybody ever said that
So
to you?
rude.
It's excuse me? What are you talking about? Mental health is a real thing. I struggle with anxiety. I feel a lot of people do, and it's something women tried to be this picture perfect vision of just poisonous, and that's just not reality.
No, it's not. And I think for a long time too, it was associated, I mean, men and women suffer from it, but for a
For
long time it
sure.
was sort of associated with women or
Yeah.
hysteria or, you know, female attributes. And then all of a sudden, then I think for a long time it's like taboo. And that's really hurtful because I have some people in my family suffer from it. And it is hurtful because, you need glasses, you get glasses.
Exactly.
In here,
It's
you
a
get a hearing
medical
aid.
illness.
It's no different.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And
we
I
shouldn't
think
sweep it
too,
under the rug. We should support it. We should help people. Just makes the whole world a better place if we can do that.
Marsha, you said something too that's so true. This is a woman's podcast, but men too, so many men in my life and that I've seen, they're the man, they don't want to admit that they need help. And there's
Exactly.
this like stereotype that they can't get help. So, mental health affects everybody. And to your point, Marsha, if you can't see, you go get glasses. If you have anxiety, it's the same thing.
It
Depression,
is.
same
It
thing.
is. Well, I told you I had one more, and then
Yes,
I
please
don't know
say
where
it.
this will land, but I feel like I'm hearing, last time I told you about Helen Reddy and I'm Woman, Hear Me Now playing in my head. But I was really fortunate. I lost my mother last year. She was 3 weeks shy of her 98th birthday, but my mom was a powerhouse. Think about it. My mom was born 20 something years after women were allowed to vote. So imagine the era she grew up in. My mom was barely 5 foot. My mom was deaf. She had scarlet fever when she was very early age, and they thought she was slow. They didn't have all the resources or access back then. And it took them a while and to realize my mom was deaf. When she was a teenager, imagine being a teenager and your family packs you up and sends you off and drops you off at a school, and you live there most of the year. You get to come home for a couple of holidays a year. That's what happened to my mom. She was sent away and she had to learn sign language, and she had to catch up on her education. She went to School for Deaf and Blind in Romney, Virginia. And like I said, my mom was a very tiny person, but my mom was the most independent, fiercely resourceful person I ever met. In the deaf world, a lot of them didn't drive, especially back then. Things have changed a lot, probably the last 20 years. But for my mother, she drove a car. She wanted to work outside the house, and by God, she was going to. And my mom just didn't let opportunities that weren't prevalent in the deaf community stop her. She just didn't. My mom was, like I said, she didn't tolerate being told no, and heaven forbid you told my mom she couldn't do something. At my mom's funeral, my niece, her granddaughter, told a story, and it was about going through a drive-through. And again, my mom can't hear. She pulls up and she writes things on a pad, or she could communicate, but she couldn't hear back what they were saying. They didn't do something, they didn't give something my niece wanted. They pulled up. So my mom just backs up and makes the people behind her back up, and she's laying on the horse. She can't hear what they're saying. She doesn't care. She's backing up. They pull to the window, and the guy's like, "Hey, you need to tell her she can't do this. Tell her to go through the window, blah, 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 blah." And she looked and she goes, "You tell my grandmother." Because my mom might have gone in that restaurant and it might not have been a pleasant scene. Just so you know, words to describe my mom were stubborn, determined, and my mom was feisty. And I admire those traits. My mom came a long way and lived a long, beautiful life. But those were the traits that helped her, be able to do that. And I'm fortunate that I had a mother that was so determined. So I feel very, very lucky.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I have a very favorite quote. A lot of people like it, so it's become kind of stereotypical, but I don't care. It's well-behaved women never make history. And I think that speaks to your mom. You have to be stubborn, you have to stand up for yourself. If you know what you want, go get it, no matter what is. That's the perfect
Limitations on
example
that.
of just showing somebody empathy. You had all these things that she could have just said, "My life stinks," but she took advantage of it and she ran with it. So thank you for sharing. That's awesome. She sounds like a really cool lady.
She was a really cool lady. Her funeral was amazing. So many people had stories, and I was even amazed at how many lives she had affected. She taught sign language, and a lot of people were like, my mom was like, they're like, she's like, "You're doing it," and they're like, "Okay."
What was her name?
Not Regina, but she went by Jeannie,
Well, that is
and
women
Regina
in.
means queen. That's my
Yes,
middle name.
exactly. I think a lot of times for women in history, we think about the Eleanor Roosevelts and the Carrie Fishers, but at the end of the day, it's the Reginas of the world that make up our day-to-day life. And, it's me, you, Katy, we're the ones that are writing history every single day. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. We
Well,
are
thank you
running
for
short
giving me
on
the
time.
opportunity. I
So
appreciate
we
it.
have one more question.
Sure.
Speaking of family members, we're going to look inward to ourselves. So, Marsha, we'll start with you. If you could go back in time and give advice to your younger little Marsha self, what would you tell her?
I would tell her you can do more than you think you can do and to have confidence. I was much older when I really found my voice and got confident, and I would just be telling myself, you're as good as anyone else. Have the confidence to do what you think you can do, because guess what? You're going to achieve it.
Well, I love that. And I think that, me personally, I look up to your voice. You have a very, very strong voice for whatever it's worth from me. Um, a lot of people really look up to you and admire you. So,
Thank you very
um,
much.
I'm very proud of all that you've accomplished. But we'll move on to you, Katie. What would you tell little Katie, years ago, and what advice would you give her?
I
Little
know Katie's
Katy.
mom, and it was probably like, Katie.
Yeah. I think I would tell younger Katy or little Katy, and something that I struggled with early on that I wish I could make better for her now is understanding and like trusting your own worth and your own value, and then advocating for your place, because it took me so long to be comfortable, like kind of standing up and saying like, no, like take me seriously, and this is what, and asking for what I wanted. Like when I finally got to FMLS, I was really clear with Marsha, like I have these goals and this is what I want to do and this is what I want to accomplish. And that I was not like that my whole life. Like it took me a long time to get there, and it took being at Showing Time and working with Kathleen, and Kathleen telling me like, you need to ask for what you want. You go in, and if you want something, you take it. And so that's what I did. I asked for to learn more things, and then I led the market stats team, and that was a great opportunity for me, and it kind of opened up everything in my life. But it came in phases. Like I had that little bit where I was comfortable at Showing Time, and then when I went to Zenlist and talked to Eileen about having this MLS manager position that I served in while I was there, really asking for, this is what I want the position to be. And then when I got to FMLS, saying like, this is what I want my future to be at FMLS. And Marsha and I talk about it all the time. Like, what do I see happening in 2 years and 3 years and 4 years and 5 years? And she's been a great proponent of that, because when I interviewed with her, I said, I want to be on the RESO board in 5 years. And I did it in 2, and that's amazing. And so,
Congratulations.
setting those goals and understanding that like I can achieve them, and that but I am the one standing in my way most of the time. So advocating for myself, I think, is really important. And I would teach young Katy to be comfortable with that. Like it's okay to ask for what you want, because it's the only way you're going to get it.
Yeah, I was just talking about this, I forget to who this week, but the only person that is going to 100% look out for you is yourself. And you have to just be the
For
best
sure.
advocate for yourself, whether it's in your job, your friendships, your family, your health. It doesn't matter. You have to advocate for yourself. But thank you, ladies, so
Thank
much.
you.
It was
Thank
such an honor.
you. It's been fun.
It has been so fun. To everybody listening, happy Women's History Month. We are celebrating all month long all of these beautiful, amazing women like Katy and Marsha. Please, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe on whatever pod platform you listen to us on. And until next time, ladies, keep up the girl power, and happy Women's History Month. Thank you, Katy,
Thanks,
Marsha, so
Lauren.
much.
Thank you.